I first smoked pot 45 years ago when I was a freshman at Georgetown Law School in Washington, D.C., and I've been a regular smoker ever since. There is nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana. It was 40 years ago next month that NORML was formed, and at the time, and so we've been at this now for 4 decades, and our position then and our position now is there's absolutely nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults, and it should be of no interest or concern to the government. They have no business knowing whether we smoke or why we smoke. As Alan mentioned in his opening comments, we really are at a tipping point in this country. There are more living Americans who have smoked marijuana than living Americans who have not. And with the increasing support we have from the public now, we've made more political progress in the last 5 years than in the first 35. So, folks, we are very close to winning this, closer than it looks like when you're out struggling on the street level, I understand. But once change begins, it happens more quickly than you anticipate. Now, I want to introduce you now to some of the people who are responsible for the progress we're making. I don't for a moment suggest that these are the only important projects around the country, because frankly, there are so many of those we couldn't possibly have everyone represented on the panel, or we wouldn't have time during the 3-day weekend. But this is a fair sample, I think, of the very good, positive, progressive work that's going on this issue. The first person I'd like to introduce is, because we're here in his home state. John Sajo is the executive director of a group called Voter Power. They are the primary sponsor of Initiative 74, I believe it is that right, John, 74, in Oregon, which would create a state-licensed dispensary system where right now in Oregon, as he'll explain, I'm sure, they have medical marijuana, and you can share it among your friends and give it away, but nobody is legally allowed to sell it. Well, with some luck in November, that's going to change. Please welcome John Sajo.
Thanks, Keith, and welcome all you NORML attendees. If there's any of you that are my age or a little older, you might remember the last time NORML had the annual conference in Portland was 1986. And back then, we also had a measure on the ballot to legalize personal use of marijuana. I was the main person on that, and we've come a long way. That year, we got 26.3% yes vote, and it was a real sobering lesson. And so it's exciting to be with you all here now when we are on the verge of not only being on the ballot, but winning the election. So this is an exciting time. I assume you're all here because you love marijuana and you would like to legalize it. Good. Well, let me tell you, when I started out as a young activist many decades ago, I looked at it and, tried to figure out, well, how do we do that? Is it going to be, do we go to our legislatures? Do we go to Congress? Do we, bring court cases where the laws are thrown out? And I quickly realized that the way we're going to legalize marijuana is using the initiative process. And that has been how most of the major gains have happened. That's how we got, Prop 215 in California brought us the first medical marijuana law. Now we have 14 states plus D.C., and most of them came with initiatives. So we need to embrace the initiative process. The people are far ahead of the politicians on this issue, and that's how we're going to legalize marijuana. And this is an exciting year. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we have marijuana on the ballot in 4 states, and I think that's the most we've ever had on in one time. So that's another measure of progress. Now, I'm just going to try to share some things I've learned over the years about using the initiative process and what we need to know about it. First off, it costs a lot of money. And up until recently, most of the initiatives were not funded by us. They weren't funded by, a grassroots movement. They were funded by a small number of big funders, Peter Lewis, Soros, and Sperling. And thank God for those, really wise, rich men. But it's time for this movement to move past that funding source. And frankly, we're having to do it whether we like it or not. We got on the ballot by doing it ourselves, and we did get a grant from MPP and a grant from DPA, but in this initiative that we just put on the ballot, we raised the lion's share of the money from small contributions and a few benefactors. And one of my messages is that if we want to legalize marijuana, we're going to have to pay for it, and it's not going to be cheap. And I'm hoping that we can go away from this conference with everybody realizing that we have the power, just those of us at this conference, to do this, but we need to shift our spending a little bit, and we need to all make sure we spend as much on legalization as we spend, for example, at the Governor Hotel. And if we do that, we'll be pretty close to legalizing marijuana. So anyway, part of my pitch to you all is we need your help. You know, one of the things that's going on with this initiative is we barely got on the ballot, we're nearly broke, and we're in a very, very difficult, tough campaign. We think we can win, and there's lots of evidence that shows we can, but we need you to help us raise some money. So we're having an after party tonight at the Modish building, which is about 3 blocks from here. We're passing out flyers, so come on down, and you know we'll be continuing the conference after it stops here, and have speakers and things you can bid on and all that usual stuff. But anyway, we need your help, so please step up. Now, what does our initiative do? Our initiative, you know, we've had the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act for 12 years, and it's a great law. It has stopped patients from being arrested for using their medicine. What it hasn't done is created a system where all patients get medicine and they get it conveniently. We now have over 45,000 patients in Oregon. I don't know if that's the highest per capita among the states, but it's right up there. But we have a system that requires these people to produce their own medicine, and it's a felony for anybody to sell it to them. And we've been struggling with that for 12 years, making the best of it, and we do pretty good. You know, there's a lot of organizations that try to help patients, but it just doesn't work. You know, there's no question that requiring patients to produce their own medicine keeps medical marijuana in the dark ages. And we look forward to a future where patients can grow it themselves if they want, but where they can go buy it and where they can buy advanced products that research and development and innovators like some of you out there are going to come up with. And that's going to be a better world, and we're going to make it happen on November 2nd. There's some really exciting aspects of this campaign. Now, we've done a lot of polling, and, you know, one of the things I got to say is that part of politics is our issue, but a bigger part of politics is realizing that we're a little issue in a big sea. And right now, one of the things we're up against is the decline of the Democratic Party in the national sphere, and the Republicans are highly motivated. They're out for blood, and they're all going to be voting. We polled on our issue right after the November 2008 election, and we were polling at 59-32. We polled in June, and we're only ahead 46-41. And it's not because people have changed their attitudes about medical marijuana. It's because young Democrats are not planning on voting. And so one lesson there is the key to us winning this election, and I imagine it's the key to Prop 19 winning in California, is we have to mobilize the young voters. We have to register them, and we have to get out the vote. So we're directing a lot of effort in our campaign at that. We have petitioners out collecting emails and registering voters. We just collected emails from about 5,000 people at the state fair, and now we have an email list approaching 20,000, and we're going to keep building on that to where we can send out emails and remind people to vote. In Oregon, we are lucky because we have only vote by mail. We don't go to the polls at all, so we have about a 2-week window where people have their ballots, and we're going to spend a lot of our resources on getting people that we know are supporters out to vote. And if we do that, that will easily overcome the fact that we're not over 50% in our polling numbers. There's been another test of this campaign as well. Last month, a new part of the initiative process here in Oregon was called the Citizens Initiative Review, where another nonprofit organization partnering with the state government selected 24 voters at random to demographically match the state of Oregon, and those folks studied this initiative for a solid week. We had many hours of testimony. They had expert witnesses. We brought out all kinds of people. We brought Mary Lynn Mathry from Patients Out of Time, and Mike Kravitz from Veterans for Access to Medical Marijuana. We brought Don Duncan from ASA. You know, the other side, they talked to Andrea Barthwell. They talked to Chris's police chief, who said all kinds of terrible things about dispensaries in California. But at the end of that process, where these 24 average citizens got to really get into the trenches and study the details of the initiative, we won 13-11. And the lesson for that is that we can win, but it's going to be very close. And that's really what we're up against in this race. And we're putting the best campaign forward we can. We got some good things going for us. Oregon has a voters pamphlet that you can buy pro and con arguments in. It gets mailed to every household. We have an outstanding lineup in our voters pamphlet. We have 11 arguments in, including one from Tom Potter, the former mayor and police chief of Portland, Betty Roberts, former justice of the Oregon Supreme Court, Christine Olson, former U.S. attorney for Oregon. So our goal was to have some law enforcement people on our side, and I think we did pretty good there. We have 8 other arguments from doctors and patients. The other side has only 2, one from Citizens Against Legalizing Marijuana and another from the cops. So I think we're going to win in that arena. That's going to be very influential. We hope to raise a significant amount of money over the next 2 months and use it to get out the vote on the one hand, and also to put out our message that a regulated system will work better than what we have now, and will make sure all patients get the medicine they need. And, wish us luck. Do what you can to help. I think we're going to win this election in November. Thank you very much.